Hey everybody, it's Gail, and today is Fifth Friday. If you don't know, Fifth Friday is what happens when there are 5 Fridays in a month. I make an extra video on the Fifth Friday that is still crochet related, but not showing a new project because I can only stitch so much, and I meant to cut back this year. My numbers right now are telling me I have not cut back this year. But anyway, hilariously, this Fifth Friday is about working with a new yarn. This is the Lion brand faux leather yarn from their, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Haute couture. It's French. And the goal of this yarn is to be very, very colorful and interesting looking and have an interesting texture. And all of these things are true. There are only 2 patterns available that I can find on the Lion brand website. One is a bag that I think is a great use for this yarn. So this is basically polyester strips covered in plastic paint. So, like, take t-shirt yarn and dip it into house paint, and I think you kind of get the feel of it. And so I think the bag is a great piece to use for it because it's going to be strong, and there is a little bit of stretch to this even when it's worked up, so you're going to be able to fit stuff in there. I just like a big tote, and that's a big tote. The other project is a cropped tank top, and I do like the look of it, and I like the way it shows how light plays off of the paint on the yarn. You will have the worst case of swamp tit you ever had in your life. And I remind you, some of you might not know, I used to be an I cup. Okay? I know swamp tit. And this is polyester covered in plastic paint on your boobs. If you think acrylic doesn't breathe, this breathes even less. Okay, this is like those organisms that can live in the super low oxygen environments. That is how little oxygen this thing needs, okay? There is no version of this top that is not going to result in swamp tit. It's just the nature of things. And your swamp tit ability may vary. I'm now a C cup, thank you breast reduction, and I never want to go back, even just for a couple of hours for a top. So, all of those opinions aside, let's actually talk about the yarn. So it's a super bulky. It comes in skeins of, I think, 38 yards. And the reason I wanted to work with it, the reason I got a skein to work with it is because they have some really fabulous colors, like really bright, frankly, tacky shit. So, totally my jam. And I was like, ooh, gold booty shorts in the faux leather. That could be something. And, like, yes, of course I will get swamp ass wearing them, and I knew that. But swamp ass is different than swamp tits. It's a thing. But I did want to know what I actually want to go through the process of figuring out how to make shorts in this yarn. And now that I have made this little thing, I freehanded it very intentionally because, yes, Lion Brand has the 2 patterns, but companies make patterns to show their yarn to their best advantage. And it could be that freehanding with this yarn could have led to a very different look. And I have to say, I'm very, very impressed with the actual makeup of this yarn. So because it is, so this is the back of the yarn. This is the polyester. And here's the front of the yarn with the paint on it. And what happens is they folded it over so that the entire skein is folded over like this. And I got to give it to them. There is no hint of unpainted side anywhere on this. And again, I totally freehanded this. I made it up as I went along, and that tells me they really put thought into how they wanted it to work so that it would always work up like that. That's not an easy thing to do. So respect for that. So if you do work with it, it is going to be very consistent. But I don't like it. I flat don't like it. So first of all, the polyester is stretchy, which isn't a bad thing. Never bad to have a little stretch. But it does make keeping tension correct harder because, you move your hand an inch and that could change the tension. You can tighten up without realizing. You can loosen without realizing. And so that's a concern for me. It also adds to the strain on your hands when you have to kind of constantly adjust to keep the yarn at the tension that you need. And my hands don't need that. Your hands, nobody's hands need that, but my hands right now especially don't need that. The other thing is it just feels gross to work with. The paint, as shiny as it is, as fun to catch the light as it is, it just feels gummy. And I was working on this while in a work meeting, and the heat was on in my office, and like it got kind of mealy on my hands. My hands got a little sweaty and gross from it. It just was unpleasant. Which for people who have like genuine sensory issues, that might be a real big turnoff. I don't have those kind of issues. This is a personal preference of how the yarn feels in my hands. But I have friends who have sensory issues, and so, you know, that's one of the things that always comes up when we talk yarn is like, how does it feel? Like, does it actually feel nice to work with? The other thing is that when it's done, it feels like an old tire. And it feels like a dirty old tire, which is a weird thing to say, but it's the best explanation I have. Like, if you've ever had to lift up like a hot tire that's been in the sun and empty out the standing water from a rainstorm so that the mosquitoes don't come up at you, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. And so it's just like, even working with it right now, just like having it in my hands while squishing it around, it still feels icky. It's unpleasant. I find it very unpleasant to work with, and because of my issues with the stretchiness of it and how it can fuck up the tension, and the fact that I can get different gold lame yarn to make booty shorts. There's lots of options. I could make them in Lurex, for example. Or I could just get like a metallic fingering weight yarn that I know Hobby's got a bunch of those. They're not terribly uncommon to find. Anyway, lots of things you can do to make shiny gold booty shorts. This is a no from me. I don't like it. It feels gross. The stretchability can fuck up your hands. All of that being said, you know, this is just my opinion, and it could be that you like, I love that bag. I think that bag is a really lovely piece. And if you think you can handle like the tension stuff and the feel of it, I think that would be a bag that would last for a long time. Although I will warn you, and I know this because I've had faux leather stuff in my house before, that thing is going to flake. And that is the one other thing that I'm really concerned about. And I can't show it to you on this because I haven't used this enough. It's kind of just been hanging out waiting for me to do something with it. But the thing about faux leather, and whether it's called faux leather or vegan leather, any kind of not leather, it's going to flake, it's going to crumble. And I'm betting if I spent, you know, a few minutes every day, you know, just sort of squishing it around and getting tactile with it, over time, it would start to flake off and it would stick to things and it would be uncomfortable. And so that is something to keep in mind, because what's going to happen with that bag is that where you hold it the most on the handle, I bet that's going to flake off first, and that's going to feel gross. But also it's going to make your bag look bad, and you don't want that. You're going to spend all this time making this bag. So just something to keep in mind if you do want to work with it is that odds are it is going to kind of crumble and decay the way that faux leather does. And that, I think, constitutes all my feelings on the Lion Brand faux leather. As always, if you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, all of that fun stuff. And before I finish my outro, I want you to know that you're about to get some 1970s right to the face coming up in June, because this butterfly shawl took me out. I think it aged me 10 years. I actually have a pair of hot pants that I did make from a pattern that there's some hilarious results coming. Truly. And then in July, rather than doing Vlogmas in December, as most people do, I'm doing Vlogmas in July, and I'm kind of focusing on Christmas decorations so that if you want to make Christmas decorations for yourself or someone else, you'll have time to make them. So I thought it would be fun to do Vlogmas in July instead of Vlogmas in December, where I can show you that I made it, but you won't have time to finish it. So that's what's coming up the next couple of months. There's some freehand stuff coming up as well. And, you know, I will see you when I see you.